So there's a real like visceral nature because it's survival, right? And my family all hunted and trapped and fished. I had a trap line when I was a little kid. Life is inherently stressful and unforgiving. There's no question. Joe Rogan is a good friend. He bow hunts instead of taking an animal that's been put through the process. But if you're eating a burger and you don't like somebody hunting a deer, you're just crazy. We human beings think we know shit about something that we often know nothing about and then express very serious, powerful opinions about it. And that's part of the reason why it's so deeply humiliating and painful to lose in front of everyone, because somewhere genetically we feel that we are about to be sent out from the tribe never to mate again.
Put down your latte and pull on your boots.
I would rest at peace for eternity if my legacy was that I made a positive influence on the non-hunting public about what hunters are and what hunting is.
I finally got my buck on our last real day of hunting.
So a pro-hunting organization is voting against hunting. And that says anti-hunting to me.
There was a year straight where I was averaging up to 200 death threats a day.
I hugged it like I just wanted to hug a bear.
It's proven that the average steak in a grocery store touches 50 to 100 hands and machines. And we're putting that into our body.
Hey y'all, Cable Smith, host of the Lone Star Outdoors show here.
This is Adam Weatherby.
I'm Corey Jacobson with Elk 101.
This is Christy Titus.
Hey folks, this is John Bear.
You're listening to The Wild Initiative.
Hey y'all, welcome to a very special bonus episode of The Wild Initiative, brought to you as part of the Waypoint Outdoor Collective. So, getting on to the episode, recently I've hired some new employees, some really fantastic guys to work for the Wild Initiative. One of them has done a ton of work in the MMA scene. He's got a lot of buddies out in that direction, and he recently introduced me to the one and only Robin Black. Y'all, Robin Black is a former fighter. He did a stint in the music industry. That's a really interesting one. But he is now an expert commentator on the fight scene. And not only that, he comments on just about any type of fighting you can imagine, from street fights to bugs to stuff in the animal kingdom. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, make sure you do that. There's some great stuff in there. He is the king of the 1 minute breakdown. Well, my team member Lewis was kind enough to introduce me to Robin. Robin and I hopped on an Instagram live, and really we just had an incredible time talking about fighting and hunting and the outdoors and how our two passions coincide. I mean, we touched on a little bit of everything from fitness to trophy hunting, and really it was just a unique and I thought insightful conversation, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Now, just a reminder that this is an Instagram live. It's very raw, very rough, and unedited, so hope y'all enjoy this one. Don't judge me too harshly for the sound quality, but enjoy this bonus episode, my Instagram live with Robin Black. We'll see. Got a few people joining. What's up, everybody? Super stoked to have Robin joining me today. Here we go. Let's see. Go live. And I think that worked. Well, what's up, y'all?
What up, brother?
Robin, how's it going?
I'm good. How about you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Friday. It's been a productive morning. The weather's beautiful. I'm not complaining.
Good. Where do you live? Now, first of all, we were introduced by my friend Lewis, who is the man. So any friend of his is automatically a friend of mine. Are you in the same neighborhood as him? You have the same part of the world?
We are absolutely on the other side of the world. I'm in Northern California, so I'm closer to you than he is.
No, I'm in Canada. I'm way up in Canada.
Oh, you're up in Canada right now? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I was actually...
Oh, I was going to say, I know you spend some time down in LA occasionally doing stuff with Bellator, right?
Yeah. I'm in LA. I was about to say I'm in LA a week a month, but I'm in LA a week a month during other parts of the world, other times in human existence. But right now I'm up here in Canada.
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing ever seems to be open. I don't want to go anywhere near Los Angeles at the moment. So
no. Although I mean, I know what you love to do, and that's what we have in common is we both do what we love. I'd love to be sitting next to a cage talking while human beings fight. It's just not happening right now, so I'm not.
Yeah. And for those who are asking, we will make the quick introduction to Lewis. Lewis is a good buddy of yours. He is somewhere on here. It's the Lewis Serrano. Give him some love on Instagram. He recently joined my team. Awesome guy. So got to give him a shout out as well. But yeah, man. So I've been watching some of the videos. And dude, you are a kick, man. I absolutely love it. If y'all haven't checked out, so we're kind of coming at this from a couple of different worlds here. You know, I'm coming at it from the outdoors and hunting. You come from the MMA world, and so for those joining that are coming in from my world, if you're not familiar with Robin's videos, make sure you check out his Instagram, his YouTube. Check out his 1-minute breakdowns. They are worthy of entertainment all throughout the day for sure.
Thanks, man. I know where we do cross is, I analyze combat of any kind, and that includes if a cat fights a dog, or an ant fights a ladybug. I'm still going to analyze. It's just movement and combat. It doesn't matter what animal. If it's a human animal or a different animal, it's still combat.
What was the one I was just watching? I was watching the leopard versus the warthog, or Charlie Cheetah. What was it?
Yeah.
That was the one I was thoroughly enjoying just now.
Yeah, when you're building stuff, I'm interested in analyzing combat, and in the animal kingdom, that is life, right? Like I'm trying to eat that animal to live, and that animal is trying to stop me from eating it, so it continues to live. So there's a real visceral nature because it's survival, right? But that one was wild because at the end, out of nowhere, this hyena comes in and just explodes the whole thing. But it was the weird twist of it. But again, I don't care if it's two men fighting in a ring or a cage, or if it's animals fighting for survival. Combat is unpredictable.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I'm assuming you probably have seen a lot of these videos, and that's kind of where some of the content. You've heard of Nature is Metal, right? The account.
Yeah. And I've actually, Nature is Metal has shared one or two of mine where I got theirs and then analyzed it. I don't know the individual that runs Nature is Metal, but they've DM'd me and shared a few of mine, and I have seen some of theirs. And Nature is Metal is a really, really moving site, beautifully curated. It's whether you are somebody who talks about baking or bicycles or nature or fighting, that's the level of quality that somebody can do is what they're doing. The highest level. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and it's incredible because people get so convinced in our world today. We're so disconnected, completely disconnected from nature now, that we need accounts like that remind you there's some random thought in this world that when animals die, they make it to this ripe old age, and a deer, this old gray deer walks up the mountain and lays down in a field of clover, and all the animals in the animal kingdom surround him, and that's not how deer die.
No, no, not at all. When I grew up in a small town in Manitoba, Canada, central Manitoba, nowhere. And my family all hunted and trapped and fished. I had a trap line when I was a little kid. And so it was beautiful, actually. It was, a way that not only was me and my brothers able to be close with my dad, but I learned about about negotiating by selling the furs. I learned about preparing things and taking an asset, a fur, and making it more valuable by the way that you treated it. There's a lot you learn about life from doing that, you know. But you also learn that, yeah, like there are, whether it's humans, and we trapped and hunted because my father grew up, they were poor. And if you shot a deer, family ate for the winter, right? But by being out in the world like that, you see, yeah, the shit, whether it is a human being who needs the food or is doing the hunting, or another animal, animals don't end up in old folks' homes.
It's so funny. I mean, because I get all these people that it's not as bad for me. I know a lot of people get it a lot worse, but they come on and they're like, they just attack. And how can you kill this beautiful animal? I'm like, well, because the split second that I kill that animal, use it and feed my family is a lot better than the days and weeks of pain and suffering and starvation that it would deal with otherwise.
For sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Life is inherently stressful. Life is inherently stressful and unforgiving. There's no question. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I eat meat. I love meat. And when I travel the world, I like to, and it's different. Meat is different in different places. I had in Senegal when I was there, and I tried different meats when I was in Southeast Asia. But Joe Rogan is a good friend, and he bow hunts instead of taking an animal that's been put through the process, because, of course, it's a better quality of meat. It's a purer meat. It's a pure acquisition and harvest of the animal. I mean, it only makes sense. Now I get it if somebody's just like, don't ever harm anything that casts a shadow. Okay, if that's your world, I get why you're upset. But if you're eating a burger and you don't like somebody hunting a deer, you're just crazy.
You're paying someone to assassinate some stuff for you. And here's the thing. I don't fault anyone. You know what? If you don't want to hunt, you don't have to. I don't care. But don't sit and come after me while you're sitting there with a stuff in your face with a big ass burger and tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Hell no.
And, they say, I was going to say, here's the other thing. They say that between 37 to 100 hands have touched every steak you buy from the store.
Wow.
37 to damn 100 hands. That's nasty.
That's nasty.
You want to know
That's
how many
real
hands
nasty.
touched my deer back strap? One.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, it brings up a bigger question too about life. That's always why I love talking to people who are specialists in their area, like you are in yours, and I specialize in one area. Is we see the same things over and over again. Like, we human beings think we know shit about something that we often know nothing about, and then express very serious, powerful opinions about it. But for the most part, I mean, unless you do specialize in something, most of it, we know about the things we truly specialize in, and not a hell of a lot else. I don't know much about politics or the weather or, areas of science that I don't study. I just know about what I know about. But by you studying and being deeply immersed in one area, it makes you more humble about other areas. You don't pretend to be an expert in things you don't know, correct?
Absolutely. And my whole thing is, I'm new to hunting. I did not grow up with it. I was not the kid that walked through the woods with granddad's gun. I picked this up a few years ago and I fell in love with it. And so I always put out there, I'm like, I am not an expert at this. I am a student as much as a student can be. And we got someone here, just Hostry, and I apologize if I butchered your name. He's asking here about trophy hunting. And this one thing, I just want to call it out because this is one of my biggest pet peeves. Trophy hunting is the most loaded term on this earth. It is a very loaded term. So one thing people ought to know, whether you're in England, North America, or Africa, trophy hunting, the concept of just shooting an animal and chopping off its head and taking off with it, that is illegal. 100% illegal. Mm-hmm. That is not hunting. That is poaching. You are required to take the meat. You are required to pack that whole thing out and do it legally and ethically. Any sort of hunting that is not done legally is not hunting. It's poaching. I'm just throwing that out there first and foremost.
It's also harmful to people like you who hunt. People who do that actually harm people like you who do it ethically.
Exactly. And in the hunting community at large, when people like that are found, they're ostracized. They are ripped to shreds in the hunting community. There's hunting celebrities that have TV shows that have gotten caught doing shady shit, like really shady stuff. And the hunters are the first ones to rip them apart. So trophy hunting, the other idea of trophy hunting, taking the animal with the biggest rack, the concept behind that is, as hunters, we want to take the most mature animal, the animal that has lived the longest, has spread its genes, it's done its mating, whatever that is. So, we look for a big elk, a big animal like that. And typically at the point where you're hunting a quote unquote trophy animal, that animal is past its prime. A lot of the time it's been, like in the case of lions, older lions get ostracized from their pack. And so they've stopped they're effectively not effective at breeding anymore. They lose their ability to pass on their genetics. And so by taking that older, more advanced animal, you're refreshing the gene pool in, say, that pack, because they're still pushing off all those other, younger lions, because they're, still kind of in charge. But trophy hunting is kind of a loaded term, but I always like to put that out there.
For sure. Yeah. So you want to hear an interesting crossover element. The moment when human beings fight and when you lose, especially in front of everybody, muscled up, wearing shorts in a cage in front of hundreds of thousands of people watching on television, and you lose, there is a deep sense of loss and pain that's very challenging to overcome. And they say that there's almost a genetic sort of connection to in human beings being ostracized from the tribe. That there is the feeling of, some of our primate ancestors would fight each other to stay the one that could breed and ostracize the other for a life of loneliness and wandering, trying to find meaning in a life that's over. That's part of the reason why it's so deeply humiliating and painful to lose in front of everyone, because somewhere genetically we feel that we are about to be sent out from the tribe, never to mate again. It's in us. Humans have that feeling.
You're about to lose your position. Your position in the tribe talks about, the chief back in the day. It was the chief that ate first. I tell you what. And then, then it's his first level guys, and it goes down from there. And if you're lucky if you get to gnaw on the bones afterwards.
Exactly.
And we forget about that. Our luxurious, comfortable, sitting in plush chairs lives right now.
It's true. Very true. But that's still in us. So we still, when we're scared or insecure or weak or humiliated, we still have those feelings that date back. It's only 5 people ago that we weren't living comfortably. 3 people ago that we weren't living as comfortably as this. That's still in us. That awareness of what failure and setback and humiliation can mean. Starvation, never mating again, never having, friendships or meaning in your life. All of that's connected to success and failure to this day in us.
Well, it's so easy to forget the whole tribal aspect that we come from. And I was actually just talking with a bunch of guys about this, and the whole concept of masculinity and building your tribe. And it's such an unpopular thing to discuss nowadays. Everyone's, I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's masculinity, and masculinity is a tool, and you use it how you want, and blah, blah, blah with that. But, we forget.
Masculinity is also ever changing. What it means to be a man is different than what it meant 1,000 years ago. It will be different in 100 years from now, too. It's also individual. To assign just being a male or a female as somehow toxic is a pretty wild overreaction to something that is a part of being a human. It's pretty weird, really.
See, though, I question how much the idea of masculinity and being a man has changed. Because you look back through and you say, like, you look at a lot of these guys, and there's a big difference. There's a big difference, I'd say, between being a good man and being good at being a man. And that's a quote from a guy, Jack Donovan, that I'm a huge fan of his books. But you look back like through history and all of this stuff, and there's like some masculine dudes out there who are like the villains of existence, you know, like freaking, you look through history, like Hannibal. Dude, how many, people, that dude took over the world. Alexander the Great, like murdering people, taking over the world, all of this crap. But would you say those were not masculine men?
100% they were. For sure they were. But I think like being a warrior leader and being a conqueror is an aspect of masculinity, probably always will, may always be, may not. But I think some of those things may still be valuable, but then we sort of misuse them to go in and conquer other businesses in the same, say, for example, in the same way that we would conquer areas and resources and stuff, may not be as useful a direction of our masculinity. To spend your entire lifetime buying up other businesses and never finding happiness may not be. It may be today's influence or today's sort of way to look at that. But I think it changes we're many things. I think that's the other thing. We're all many things. We're a man and a brother and a son and a friend and maybe a husband or a father, a worker, a learner, a journey, a student. We're a lot of things. So I think they're all blended together. I think it's difficult to say what's what, but I think it's very dangerous for somebody else to say that by you being a man, this is a bad thing or this is somehow harmful. Men have always been there. Presumably, unless the world changes in 1,000 years and there are not men and women, they always likely will. To somehow say that that's inherently toxic or bad is a little crazy, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's, again, in my opinion, it's like anything. It's a masculinity is an aspect, and it's a tool that can be directed one way or the other. Yeah, just like strength. Strength, you can use it in a million different ways. You know, you can direct it to lift someone up, or you can direct it to beat someone down. Like it's
very true. I just saw a really interesting question. Again, just sorcery. Again, I'm sorry, I butchered your name too. Do you ever get an emotional connection with the animal when hunting? That's an interesting one.
I would say absolutely. And everybody, and keep in mind, this is me speaking from my perspective. The people I surround myself with and the type of hunting I prefer to do, absolutely. And also, here's the thing. Like, if I'm going out with buddies and we're going squirrel hunting, something like that, and want to make squirrel stew, maybe not so much. But, and keep in mind, squirrel stew is awesome. I swear by that up and down. I can share recipes.
I've had
it. But like for elk hunting or mule deer hunting, where I'm going out and I'm spending months researching locations for that animal. Then, you know, if it's fairly local, or I'm taking the time where I'm going out and scouting for weeks beforehand and maybe finding a specific animal that I want to chase. And then you're going in and you're packing into the woods and you're in there. You're spending days without going back to the truck, without going back to a hotel room. You're rolling in there and you are, you're following these animals around and you're waiting for your opportunity. You're patterning them. You're learning them. With elk. Like, you can recognize like elk by their bugles even, which if you've never heard an elk bugle, that's one of the coolest sounds on earth, by the way. So, of course, damn straight you develop an emotional connection with these animals. And it is a bittersweet moment when you harvest that animal.
Of course.
But that shot is the smallest portion of that entire experience of hunting.
Yeah.
That is just an instant. And there's a dude.
And it's not the
right
end
there.
either. It's not the end either, because then there's the relationship that begins with consuming and preparing and sharing and feeding your family. I mean, that's relationship is still happening after the shot.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we always say, like, once you pull that trigger, that's when the hard work starts. When you're mountain hunting, because this isn't the type of hunting where you roll up with the ATV, sling it on the back, and you take it, you hang it up in your barn and go. This is the, okay, you know, and I'm still working on my first elk right now, but this is the kind of hunting where you go in, you pull that trigger, you have to get to the elk, and these can be up to like 1,000-pound animals. And so you then have to spend the next few hours processing this animal, quartering it out, throwing it on your damn back. If you're lucky, you got some buddies coming out to help you. And you're talking, you know, 100 pounds right there, 100+ pounds that you are hauling out, and you got to make 4 or 5 trips.
Yeah. Wow.
That's some serious dedication.
Yeah, for sure. So my connection on my end to this, it's a human and you're fighting him in prize fighting, but think about the connection you have through that process to go in, never mind the sharing of 15 or 25 minutes or the experience that happens, but weeks and months of preparing for that person, studying them, studying who they are, admiring them at times. You go in, this is a very special human being I'm going to fight. It's a very special human being who's dedicated themselves to becoming this on this night, and I have to overcome them. You develop a deep emotional connection to that person. Now, that you don't harvest them, and they don't feed you physically, but the food that you achieve through winning that fight feeds your family, gives you all the same things. There's I can really make that connection, and it must be even deeper because that animal literally sustained you. Literally physically sustained you. That's a really fascinating question and a really interesting line of thought.
I can imagine. I never really thought of that, because a lot of the time, you know, you see a lot of those rivalries on, you know, when it comes to fighting and things like that. You see a lot of the rivalries, you see a lot of the trash talking, because most of the time that's the stuff that gets like really put out there. You know, you see that unless you're really into that and you're following it closely, that's what gets promoted, is like, oh, so-and-so, oh, they fought at the weigh-in, you know, that kind of stuff. You don't see as much of the positive stuff. And I mean, there is a deep respect between fighters. And, you know, I think it's amazing when you have two guys that, I mean, to some, you know, verging on life and death, just short of it, you know, as close as you can get without actually having it happen. Yeah. You know, you're sharing something with someone.
For sure you are. And only you two really know what happened. Like, even I spend my life analyzing fighting, but there are many things you'll never know. You cannot get the full truth. It's only available in the experience. So only they really know, right? There's also a very strange connection. Like, this person is trying to take away my dream, but at the same time, this moment where I get to show who I am as a man, or who I am as a human being, or who I am as an artist or an athlete. This doesn't exist without them. So they're also my partner in this. I'm thankful for them, but I also need to take away their dream to get mine. So it's a very complex that develops. And then forever you're linked to that person. You know, that person defeated you, or you defeated them, and you shared these crazy moments. So it's a wild thing. It really is a wild thing. Hey, Roxanne Modafferi, she says that's right on the money. She's a UFC fighter and a lifelong martial artist, and so her saying that it means a lot to us.
That's awesome. You know, I've seen a huge connection between fighters and hunters. I know a lot. You know, another California guy, Chad Mendez. He is a huge hunter. He runs a guide service, and I know a lot of guys he's fought with, and I mean, shoot, half of his guide service is based on the idea of he'll take you out on a hunt, and there will be an athlete or a fighter that goes on the hunt with you. So you kind of have a celebrity guest that comes out on the hunt with you. Roxy just mentioned, I was going to say, there's Luke Cadillo is a good friend. He's a fighter. Gladiators Unleashed. His whole deal is fighters that hunt, and he's got a show that's incredible.
I have a question. Is a hunter by definition an athlete?
I could see both points. I wouldn't say by definition an athlete. It's you could call it a sport. Oh, so here's the question.
Yeah.
Is everyone who plays baseball an athlete?
Right. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
It's I would say no, and I'm sure somebody will email me or message me and say call me an a-hole because of it, but the
internet.
No. Yeah. And there are certainly physical aspects, and there are without a doubt athlete hunters. There are whole competitions based around the athleticism having to do with hunting. There's like Train to Hunt, and there are these competitions where you take your bow and you put on a weighted pack and you run up hills and do these exercises. Then you have to shoot, and you're timed based on whether or not you hit your target. And the Alpha Bow Hunting Challenge is another really cool one. So there is definitely, especially when it comes to Western like mountain hunting, that physical aspect. You don't have to be in peak physical condition to do that. But
there are athletes. There are athletes too. Aspects of athleticism, in my belief, is mental and psychological and different types of physiological. Like if you train, as soon as you start to practice and study, I think you are becoming an athlete to a certain degree. If you say practice to shoot in between breaths or in between heartbeats, that's a type of athletic practice. To me, it is a physical athletic practice. If you train your focus, I think that's an athletic practice. It isn't by definition. Other people train focus other than athletes, but a fastball hitter trains his focus and trains those things. So it's an interesting one, but you're right. We could just discuss it for months and years and say yes, no, yes, no, yes. And that's part of the fun of any of these things. If we keep an open mind, we'll never really we'll never overly sit with either yes or no on that. We'll keep an open mind and keep learning and thinking about it, It's wild.
Talking about, you mentioned, you're good friends with Joe Rogan. I know that's a huge piece of his hunting. And, he is very good buddies with Cameron Haynes, who I know. Yes. And
I met Cameron at dinner. I met Cameron at a dinner with Joe once. I met Cameron at a dinner with Joe once at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas after Joe did a show. And Joe introduced him as, do you know Cameron? And this was his exact words. Do you know Cameron? He's the world's most famous bow hunter. And I thought, that's fucking cool. He was a cool guy. He was a very cool guy. Yeah.
I would not say that as far, like, I'm sure people would argue the point, but if he was not the like most famous bow hunter, he's top 3 at least by far. But he's one of the nicest guys on earth. He is, you want to talk about talented athletes, like in multiple ways. Dude's an ultra marathoner and he's a lifter. Like the two of those things don't tend to combine often. No. And he is just, he's just a bad, and people give him crap left and right, and he's one of the world's nicest guys. So, but I love Cam, super talented guy, awesome hunter, and super inspiring.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, we're all trying to figure out our path, right? And the path involves learning, being humble enough to keep learning, sometimes learning multiple disciplines like, lifting and ultra marathoning and bow hunting and figuring out how they make you better at each. I mean, those things are inherently part of our path. So whenever we see people, whether they're exactly in our stream or not, we can learn, right? And that's one of the cool things about the internet. It's why I wanted to hang out and chat with you. We get a chance to learn by crossing disciplines. And there's a lot of that in the world right now. That availability is there where you can learn about a lot of different things by literally us just sitting and talking into our phones. It's fucking cool.
Well, it's like, who would have thought we could find so many commonalities just right off? I mean, two very different backgrounds, two very different guys, variety of interests, things like, there's very surface level commonalities, but it's just amazing that we have the ability to do this. But so there's one thing you brought up was talking about the mental aspect, and I think that's another huge crossover between hunting and fighting. And the mental aspect is something with hunting that you can put two different people in the exact same situation, and the guy that's mentally strong is going to be successful versus the guy that's not so much is going to go back to the truck. Whether that's hiking in and deciding to go 2 ridges over because you heard an elk bugle over there, or whether that's just knowing and being strong enough to stay out there in crappy conditions to be able to get that animal. And I'm sure that translates to fighting.
100%. But I believe it translates to all things. And I think once you realize that our mental strength and our ability to sort of stay calm in chaos, to be able to be what we need from ourselves in difficult situations, once we realize that, number one, first, it's important, really important in everything. Then number two, we learn to assess it. And honestly, like, where are we at? How good am I? Oh my God, I folded in this situation. I'm sad. I'm embarrassed. I feel bad, but I accept it. And then number three, probably the most important thing is this is a trainable skill. You can become mentally stronger. You become mentally stronger through hard work, through learning, through being in putting yourself in difficult situations and finding that you fail but get a little better. We develop this, and I've talked to a lot of fighters about this. And I remember the first time, Matt Brown. If you watch Matt Brown fight, he's one of the mentally toughest guys in the world. And I said that to him. I was like, Matt, you're one of the mentally toughest fighters there are. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm just a person. When I show signs of mental toughness, it's a result of my preparation. I am not inherently mentally tough. I can be mentally tough if I worked hard enough. And I was like, holy shit, that's so self-aware. Because once you realize that, it's like whatever your limitations are only your limitations for now. If you accept them, acknowledge they're real, and then work to move past them. And that's a very fucking empowering thing you can learn from not quite achieving what you set out to do hunting or in a cage or in a business meeting or anything. Like, we can learn it and we can develop it.
Well, we don't like to be uncomfortable. And to grow in any fashion requires you to be uncomfortable. Comfort results in stagnation. And I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as standing still. You're either progressing or you're regressing. I agree. And I kind of got into it with some people over the idea of balance and finding balance in life. And I kind of, we've all heard the term, life is all about finding balance. And I call bullcrap on that. Life is not, there's time for balance in life, but life is not all about finding balance. Life is about growth. And because if you're focused the whole time on finding balance, you're not going anywhere. Growth requires discomfort. Growth requires throwing yourself off balance to move forward. You think about taking a basic step forward. You have to, even for a small instance,
lose your balance.
Yourself off balance.
I agree. So I think you are both correct. I lean towards what you're saying day to day, but I think in the context of our life, let's say we lived 90 years, we would want to have found balance in its totality. So you were a father and a brother and a friend, and you accomplished things, and you built a business you were proud of, and you learned stuff. In the totality of your life, you hope it all balances out. But day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, sometimes you go on a work bender that lasts for years. Sometimes you're doing nothing but study. Sometimes you just have fun for 5 days straight. It's not micro balance. You're absolutely right. If you're in micro balance all the time, you go nowhere. You hope that by being uncomfortable and growing constantly, that in the context of a life well lived, maybe you found some balance.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is just semantics. It's, how we're using the words and things like that. And I tend to, again, I lean into being the kind of person that, like, when I do something, I go full ass into it. Like, I'm the guy, I will put my head down. And when you're a kid and you get so excited and you're like running downhill, you got your head running and you realize you've committed so hard that you have to move your legs as fast as you can, or else you are going to face plant into the dirt and go sliding on your face. Yeah. That's how I love to go at life. But when you fall, it's going to hurt like hell. And you're probably going to get, your likelihood of falling and hurting yourself is a lot higher, but you're going to get places a whole hell of a lot faster. I just love to approach it like that. Not everyone has to.
I like it too. But to some degree, as I've gotten older, some of that slowly leaves you, whether you want to or not. Whether you want it to or not. And I think, if I'm being honest, I run down the hill with a tiny bit more awareness, but I love running. I love that run though. I love that run when you realize I have to pump my legs as hard as possible to not fall down. And I don't know if it'll be hard enough. And I just realized that now. And there's a moment of panic, but you do it. And that's a wonderful way to live, man. And maybe you won't live like that at 62, but you should fucking live like that right now if it gives you joy. And it does give you joy. Not everybody can do it, though. Sam, I've enjoyed this immensely. We must do this again very soon.
Definitely.
I've enjoyed this immensely. I've got some people watching that have popped up in and out of my stream. We probably should have said this earlier, but make sure you follow the Wildlife Initiative if you are. And I think people probably enjoyed this conversation. I hope as much as I did.
I got a lot out of it. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to make sure to save this, and I'll probably throw it up on YouTube and my Instagram TV. I got to figure out how to do that. But thank you so much for joining. I had a great time. And again, if those of y'all that follow me, if you're not following Robin Black, is it Rob Black Martial Arts, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and please give me a copy. I'll share it too. I think IGTV, if you chop it to 14 minutes and 59 seconds or less, then you can put it up.
There we go. I will split that up. Thank you so much for the time, man. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Lewis, for introducing us.
Yes, and we will do this again. And we'll find different ways to be able to chat and compare our ideas. I love it, man. I'm happy I made a new friend today.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.
Enjoy the hostilities, my friend.
All right, y'all, that'll do it for this bonus episode of The Wild Initiative. Make sure y'all head on over to thewildinitiative.com to get links to everything we talked about in this episode. That'll do it for today. I'm looking forward to next time, but until then, I hope this episode inspired you to get involved, get outdoors, and plan your initiative for the wild.
Thank you for listening to The Wild Initiative. Please take a moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher, and head on over to thewildinitiative.com to get show notes, check out the blog, gear discounts, other podcasts from the Wild Initiative family, and more.